It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stone to face, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. That's where you can go. It is fall ball season. You know, grab your buddies that are still wanting to play some baseball, get some extra swings in, maybe learn something here, throw on some t-shirts that all, say dirt bags or snot rockets or whatever you want to call the team. Me personally, my team is the Potato Guns because we mash. And that's what I always loved about baseball. You can have some fun with it and just enjoy. So make sure you check out game7baseball.com. Some great fall venues going on right now, all the way through the end of October. Tell Dave and Dave that Brian over at Youth Baseball Midwest sent you. Thank you very much. Today on the show, we got a special guest. This one I'm excited for because it's local to us here. If you've heard of the O'Fallon Hoots, they play in the Prospect League, and we have the commissioner of the Prospect League joining us today to talk some baseball, David Brauer. Mr. Brauer, thank you for taking the time, sir.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's great to be on with you and talk a little bit about our league and baseball in general.
Absolutely. Well, the interesting thing and what we try to do here is I'm always looking for opportunities, what's going on in the overall scope. We deal with, we talk about baseball all the way down to 8U. And, so this is something that is interesting to me because these are all transitions. Kids are always looking, how do I get better? You've been playing college ball. You may have a year under your belt. Where do I go? What do I do in the summertime? And that's what the Prospect League is about, correct?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's very much a developmental league. It's aimed toward college players. It's one of the collegiate summer leagues, wood bat league. So they're using wood bats instead of the aluminum bats that they would use during the regular season at their college or university. So, we really run the gamut of players, whether they could be all the way from a high school senior entering into college into the fall and playing in the summer, leading into that first year in school. Or it could be all the way up to a graduated senior that, just wants one more shot at it and maybe trying to get noticed for professional baseball. But generally, it's typically the freshmen, sophomore, juniors, a lot of players that are in junior college looking to gain that 4-year opportunity. Many players in this era of the portal looking to advance their opportunities and maybe look at another school. And then also several players that are kind of the heir apparent maybe at their position or just need further development. And their coaches want them to get more innings on the mound, to get more at-bats, and be ready for that next season because they're going to be relied upon at their college or university.
So, folks, the Prospect League, now this to me, when I saw this, I knew just a little bit because I know the O'Fallon Hoots and I'd known some about a few other teams here and there, but you got 18 teams across Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania. Logistically, that's some movement. That takes a little work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It's meant to be similar to a minor league type approach. I like to say this league is college baseball and minor league packaging. The teams will travel much as they would if you were playing in a minor league system. Some of the distance, some of the road trips certainly have a greater distance. Some of them are closer by. You mentioned O'Fallon, not too far down the road there. We have the 2025 Prospect League champion, Cape Catfish. And, league-wise, the footprint runs really from Iowa, where there's 2 teams that were former minor league baseball teams in the Midwest League, down to Jackson, Tennessee, running across the Mississippi River Valley there, and then spanning east all the way to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. So, it's definitely a large footprint. some of the leagues are really into that larger footprint and having certainly a lot of different states and cities represented in their leagues, and that's kind of the model that this league took in its approach, because it took on some teams in its original form from the Frontier League and then also from the old Central Illinois Collegiate League. And to give just a nugget of history, the Central Illinois Collegiate League was one of the original college summer leagues that came on board in 1963, and was actually run by the NCAA. And so there's a long lineage of history there. And as that league grew older and some teams kind of fell off, that league merged with some Frontier League teams that wanted to join a different venture, maybe being outgrown as that league went to more urban areas and leaving the smaller town community type teams behind. So that's where this league originated in its current state in 2009.
So that leads right into, I'm a curious guy. I always think about these things when I see this kind of stuff. And, David, how does, I wouldn't even think, how do you take on this position? What sets you in motion to take on being the commissioner of a league like this, and your background, and what drove you to be the commissioner of the Prospect League?
I think first and foremost was the opportunity for a challenge, my interest in baseball and my background in working in college athletics. I spent the bulk of my career working either on campus or predominantly for about 10 years at the Summit League Division I Conference. Leading the marketing and communication sides of things is something that I've done throughout my career, and really being active in promoting and finding the storylines that get teams and leagues and players exposure. So, I think there was an appetite for that in this league. And obviously there's a lot of administrative duties that come along with this role. A lot of hand holding in some regards, and then also a lot of, actively trying to pursue new ventures and trying to keep this league, really, in my view, coming from a college background, it really needs to align with college baseball as much as possible, because at the end of the day, this league and the others like it are an extension of college baseball. And so we need to be mindful of what's going on in the current climate there, whether it's the portal, the NIL, all these things that have developed in the last few years, and adapt to those things. And I think that's where this league has started to make some movements, and I think for the good of its future, it really needs to embrace that and really run alongside of what whether it's NCAA Division I, II, or III, or even JUCO and NAIA. What's going on in those industries.
I think it's interesting, you talk about being the commissioner here. We're used to, at the professional level, a lot of these guys that are commissioners are lawyers. And, your background is in marketing and promotional, which I think tends to be, that is the challenge, isn't it? Because with the players that are coming here, that's what they need. How is it that this league, what are some of the steps you guys take to create those atmospheres, those situations for these ball players?
Yeah, I think from a league office standpoint, when I came aboard, and that was 3 years ago, was one of the key points was, we can sit here and argue all day, is this one of the best leagues in the country? Obviously the Cape Cod League is always on that top of mind, and rightfully so. I mean, they've got such a lineage of players that have come through there. But every league is different, and the Cape Cod League plays its games on high school fields in Massachusetts, and they're all within like an hour, so it's great in terms of scouting and that type of thing. This league is different. We talked about the footprint, but it plays in some really great venues. That's one of the points of pride for this league is the venues that are oftentimes former minor league parks, or in some cases they're shared with Division I schools. So, it's trying to find, so the teams do a great job in trying to promote their individual games and selling the fans on the atmosphere and the promotions going on. But from the league standpoint, one of the things that I really wanted to make a focus for the growth of this league is its visibility. So circling back there to saying, we can argue who's the best league in the country. Let's be the most visible league in the country. and let's get our product out there, because it doesn't matter how good you are if nobody sees it. And so we've really put a strong emphasis on our social media, growing that as a league, both individual clubs, but then also the league itself. Last year, we launched a new streaming network that is going to, it was year one. It was a great, there was some transition involved, but it was certainly a great step forward and in broadening that exposure. And that can lead into some further opportunities in different platforms across the country. So it's getting this league's name top of mind with the college coaches. Certainly making a greater push and seeing those highlight reels and all the things the players want to see. You really have to think about as their individual brand, and especially those that are maybe looking to bolster their name, whether it's at their school and maybe try to earn some NIL money or something like that. But embracing those things, and then also just having those types of pieces that they can showcase their skills. And analytics is something that we're working toward building as another piece. And so having all those together is where you'll get the exposure, both just visibility wise from fans, but players and college coaches, and they'll take note of this league and realize that there's a lot of good things going on.
I think it's interesting because, each individual team, I know there's ownership involved. We kind of talked about this, a little bit before we came on the show, but attendance, community, what are some of the points of emphasis, and how are these, how are these owners bringing attention to just the community, just to try and drive the traffic to the ballpark to watch these teams play?
Yeah, really, it's no different than minor league baseball, and really any type of entertainment or sports at any level. It's trying to find, okay, why should people come out to the game? What promotions are going on? Why is it fun and exciting? And in this league, this league can offer is value. You can bring a family of four out for the game, at a very small rate compared to even a minor league game or a professional game. Access to players, kids going down, getting autographs, making a foul ball or whatever it is. It's that connection. And beyond that, it's the connection with the community. And it's the venues these teams play in. And really just making a great experience for each night for fans to come out and say, you know what, this was entertaining. It was fun. The quality of play is very good. At the end of the day, you may not recognize the players that you watched that night, but in a year or two, you may hear of them on the collegiate stage. Maybe they're on a team going to the College World Series. Maybe they're on a team that's featured on national broadcasts. In a few years, they maybe are drafted. Maybe they're in the major leagues. Maybe they're in the All-Star game, winning a World Series, whatever it is. We've had a lineage of those names, but I think between our team efforts and our league efforts, the last 3 years, and in 2023 and 2024, we set overall attendance records back-to-back seasons. And you could point to that and say, well, you maybe grew teams, but there was really only one more team that came aboard in that span. But the biggest factor there was that our attendance growth was the largest percentage growth of any collegiate summer league. So that's a big plus, and that really shows the interest level of our fans and how we're growing as a league, and our teams are supporting that. So this past season, we certainly wanted to go for the three-peat, if you will, on the attendance records, but Mother Nature was the champion on that one. Held us back a bit, but all that said, even with really 60 some rainouts that we had this season or postponements, we still were only about 40 to 50 people per game behind our record paces from the previous 2 years. So that's encouraging as well. So we're not far off. I think maybe the weather would have cooperated a little better. We would have easily eclipsed that attendance mark again, but we'll aim for it next year.
I think it's fun and interesting because, the entertainment thought process, and you got these kids that are coming back. The stadiums and facilities right over here where the Hoots play is Carshield Field, right over T.R. Hughes Boulevard. We've we've live streamed games there for the last 4 years. It's a great venue. And I think that's a cool piece to this, not only for the players, but for the fans experience. You're in a real ballpark in the say, I, for lack of a better way to put it, I guess, but I would say more of a professional style ballpark. And I think it's interesting that you guys are taking the entertainment approach to this while building underneath this structure for kids to get seen and whatnot. Do you think they work better hand in hand than some of the other things of just straight, you know, prospecting, coaches showing up? Because, I mean, you go to some of these games, it's like five people and they're all scouts, right?
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. I think the two pieces, the player development and the fan facing side of the entertainment aspect, certainly can go hand in hand. They're not mutually exclusive by any stretch. And that's what we've tried to aim for in this league is build the experience for the fans. It trickles down to the players because, you're playing in a summer collegiate league. Let's face it, game one of a summer collegiate league is really game 57 or beyond for a college player because you've been playing all spring, depending on how many games you played. So, it's starting to kind of turn into that dog days. But if you can go out and have 2,000 people, 3,000 people at a game, that's got to get you fired up a little bit to go out there and play and really enjoy having that because frankly, a lot of these players probably have a couple hundred at a game. And this not only gets them acclimated to that, especially if they're going to go to a larger school and have that type of attendance. And, if they're ready to go play at Arkansas or LSU, something like that is kind of that step towards that, I guess, in the sense of attendance. But, having that is great for the players. And then also the development side where, beyond the repetition, what we're trying to instill are some areas that can benefit those players as well. And I spoke about NIL earlier. That's one of the things that, I wanted to get into place with this league because it was emerging and have that maybe not for a player to, we're not certainly not going to have any players be, there's not going to be a bidding war for, the $1 million quarterback type of thing that we see. But what it could be is, it helps lends itself to building a bond with some of the businesses in the community, maybe making appearances at maybe a restaurant opening or a bank or holding a camp or doing some lessons, something like that, where these players can learn about building their own brand, getting the education side of it, and at the same time, maybe making a little pocket money for the summer. And, we all know for college kids, that's a big benefit. But it's that's one of those steps. We have a partnership with armcare.com, one of the leaders in, pitching and injury prevention technology. They're amazing with what they do. If you haven't heard of that, I mean, I fully endorse checking that out. But what they've done is partnered with us to not only cross promote their product, but support our league and our players by giving each team equipment to use, the players access to, charting their progress throughout the year. So that's been very beneficial as well. So, we're trying to hit all those fronts where it's ultimately at the end of the day, the player is the client and you're trying to make the experience as great as it can be for them. The fans support it and we appreciate that. And they do an excellent job with it. And, they can kind of feed off of each other going down both those avenues together.
I think it's very forward thinking because no matter whether you think you like it or don't like it or this or that, these are the things that are what's happening in especially collegiate sport today. You have to be able to deal with media. One of the things that's interesting to me, and I think this is great how you're approaching this and dealing with people and sponsors and things of that nature, because we do a lot of interviews with high school baseball players. I do interviews with 11-year-olds because it's fun. We go out and we're at tournaments and we're talking to kids and I interview them somewhat on the level of a big league player. How's your season going? What you're doing? What are you learning? And watching kids interact and understand how to interact with somebody and being able to engage and think. I think that's a huge part of what sport has become, especially with social media, how you engage and how people see you as a person. And I think that's a fascinating opportunity with what you guys are doing.
And that's one of the pieces that I feel is really important in a college summer league. It's not just your player is coming in, playing some games, getting their at bats and innings and going home, or maybe there's a lot of transiency obviously in these leagues because there's some limitations and how much do you want them to go before you shut them down during the summer, and a lot of them stick around throughout the season too because it's bonding with teammates. And you could have players that you could be a NAIA player, a JUCO player, a D3 player, and you're sitting next to a D1 player from an SEC school or Big Ten school. You're competing against those players. You're competing and playing. You're playing with and against players from all over the country. We've had players from Hawaii. We've got players from California. We've got players, obviously a lot from the Midwest. But I think it's that growth experience for these college players that maybe gets them out of their comfort zone, I guess, to speak a bit, but also enables them to see, okay, this is the future. If wherever I'm in school, I'm going to have different teammates. I'm going to have different opportunities. And I think that's part of that growth off the field because that's really important as well. I mean, players can jump year to year in this sport in terms of really making a growth in terms of their game.
Yeah.
But I think off the field, it's important as well. And we've had a partnership in the past, and we're looking to do something, continue this in the future, but that addresses mental well-being and anxiety, and because think about it, these players are 18 to 21-year-olds, just like most of the college students, obviously, but there's probably that little bit of self-doubt where what, am I good enough to compete with these guys? Am I good enough to go be the starting player at my school? Am I good enough to move up to a bigger school? All these questions and doubts, and you want to be able to support that and help these players grow, not only as on the baseball field, but in general in life, and send them back to campus with a great experience.
I love that. And that leads to, I think it's interesting. I was looking through the Cape catfish. And as you said, you answered the one question I had because I saw all these names. And so it's kids that have come in and out. They don't stay necessarily the whole year and things of that nature, correct?
Yeah, and that's just part of the college summer model. Is it could be a player, especially on the pitching side of it. Depending on how many innings you logged in the spring, it may be, hey, I just want you to go work on a new pitch. I just want you to get a little more experience. We're going to cap you at 20 innings, 30 innings, something like that. Maybe it's just a couple starts, and hey, we'll shut you down for the summer. You've been going at this for several months for injury prevention purposes. Let's kind of scale back because you're going to come back in the fall and be part of a fall program. So that's just part of the nature of it. But we also have times where maybe it's a player coming off of an injury, or a player that just didn't get the reps in college that spring, and the coach is like, hey, treat this as your full season. We want to see what you can do. So it's makes for an interesting dynamic, not only in terms of the competition levels, but the players coming in and out and what their needs are, and the amount of time they're going to take the field.
And I noticed the one name that stood out to me. I know this young man. We met him. We live streamed some games there in Jackson. Caden Bogenpole was on that Cape Catfish team. When owners now, I think this probably goes to different. You may not be able to answer. I'm not sure, but local community, does it register with the ownership and how they're bringing kids in that fit the dynamic of people, maybe that, bringing some of these kids that people know that will help them on the attendance side?
Yeah, I certainly think that's one of the factors. I mean, you mentioned Jackson. I mean, all they need to do is go sign a couple Tennessee players, whether they've even stepped on the field for the Volunteers or not. And they're, people will be, interested to see what they do. But, yeah, if it's a homegrown player that a team can bring back, I think there's an added benefit to that, and certainly the storyline. And we've had players where, I know there was a story a couple years ago. The player came back to the team, or the team he was playing for, and he could get to play in front of his family and they, maybe grandparents or something that couldn't travel to his college game. So it's kind of a nice, homecoming, if you will, or maybe you bond with, some former high school teammates and you're playing together again. But when it comes to putting these rosters together, it runs the gamut of where can you get players, and it really is very similar to a college recruiting approach because it's about connections and it's about, hey, I trust you to take my players and make them better this summer. I'm familiar with your organization. I'm familiar with the coach. So there's a lot of relationships involved in it, and and then there's also just kind of, as we spoke about, the hometown aspect, if you will, and also just the regionality of it, and the opportunities to get on board. We get players all the time that ask, "How do I get into the league?" And there's a place on our website that says "Play in the Prospect League," and you can fill out a form that goes to every team, but the best approach is probably just to reach out to the team maybe you're interested in, or have your coach reach out on your behalf and build those relationships.
I love that. And I'm sure budgets get involved in this. How does a league like this, what does that look like as a whole? And is it work like a professional style, or is that just each individual teams take care of their own business that way?
The way this league is set up, the model is very much geared toward individual teams and doing what they do. Not to make a comparison to Major League Baseball for this league, but in the sense of, you can have the New York Yankees and you can have the Oakland A's. You can have different approaches, how much money an owner puts into it, where they focus that, how much energy they focus on building their team and their success versus the business side of it. You get a lot of different approaches to that. And, none are exactly, there's no right or wrong recipe to it.
Right.
Obviously, you want to have the best of both as much as you can, but in terms of structure and budgets, it varies team to team, and it partially depends on their facilities, partially depends on their market, and ultimately that's there's some league revenue that gets dispersed across the teams, but really it's up to the individual club to make it their own and do as well as they possibly can.
Long term for this, for the league, growth wise and whatnot, because I look at this and I see 18 teams in this, it's expansive. You guys, looking at the history, go back to this, I think, because this is important. 2009, you have some of the history from back in the day. How do those things stem into what does growth look like and what is long-term goals for the league?
Yeah, as I spoke about earlier, I think the visibility side is the biggest piece right now to start laying that groundwork. Because I think while this league has done a pretty good job of having a streaming platform and having opportunities to view the product, I think in the modern age of where we are with social media and streaming, you've got to adapt to that and make that at the forefront. And the more visibility that this league can get and its players can get and the teams can get, it can vary from revenue of somebody saying, that's a really cool logo, I want to buy some merchandise and I live 1,500 miles away. Or it's the players and scouts take note of what they're doing, or other college coaches or their own coaches, and hey, this has been beneficial to us, and we really maybe see potential in this player that we didn't see before. But I think all of that, the visibility side of it, will drive everything else further. So, sponsorships, the more access that sponsors see and say, okay, yeah, if I put my name on something, I'm gonna, gonna get a lot more exposure than maybe I anticipated. I think talent level will increase. I think all those aspects, the revenue side of it, everything trickles down. Ticket sales. I mean, the best commercial you can have is showing one of these games on a stream and saying, okay, the game's pretty good. The fans are looking like they're having fun. Let's go check it out. So I think all those pieces lead to the growth. And then it's just sustaining that. And maybe that's adding more teams. Certainly, as you look at our footprint, adding some additional Eastern teams to cut down on some travel costs. Those things that can help our clubs uh, really be better financial position than they are, and growing those revenues, making more value for the teams, value for the league, all the business side of it, but then also the raising the talent level and the reputation of this league in terms of scouts and college coaches.
I like it. I'm never, I've not followed a lot of these things and whatnot. I've known the hoots, been to a couple games, and that kind of thing, but never really kind of looked at the overall scope of what was going on. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is much bigger than, because we've done a lot of live streaming over at Car Shield for high school games and things like that. So I kept seeing and got to know the folks that are, running the venue and all the stuff. And so I just got, just natural curiosity. I started looking around and I'm like, oh, wow, this is a big league. And it was interesting to me. So I started following, looking at the players and watching and whatnot. And that's to your point, the visibility. I think that's understated sometimes, at this level, but visibility is key to everything. If you can't be seen, nobody knows who you are. And that I think is key to anything being successful in that respect, especially a player who wants to increase his value as a player and a person. So, I think I love what you guys are doing. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right in terms of looking at some of these players and where do they go. And again, they're not maybe household names today. If you go to if we had a game today and you went out and you're like, okay, I don't recognize any of these names maybe, but maybe I recognize some of the schools.
Right.
But as we go forward, and this is something we've really tried to emphasize on our social media, is next spring when ESPN's got that SEC game on Thursday night with two top 10 teams, or Big Ten Network is showing a game, and it's like, wait a minute, these players just played. I saw him play last year. Okay, now I realize the quality of players that are coming through here. And you're in the St. Louis area, and the Cardinals' first round pick JJ Weatherholt a couple years ago came through this league. And he obviously went on and played in the Cape Cod League later before he got drafted, but this is where he kind of made his adjustment to college, if you will, without speaking for him, but obviously it was instrumental in his development. And there's Ben Zobrist played in this league, and he tells the story of this league is where he learned to switch hit. Well, that worked out pretty well for his career. You go further back, and I would tell anyone that if you really want to check out some of the names that have come through this league, you just got to go to our website and go through the alumni page, because you're going to recognize a lot of them. Some of them were all stars. Whichever era you want to look at, we can go back to like the 80s and Gary Gaetti and somebody like that. We can go back to Mike Schmidt and Kirby Puckett that played in this league. So there's, whether they were superstars that made the Hall of Fame, whether they were all-stars, maybe they're just major leaguers, but you're going to recognize a lot of names that came through this league. And even the last few years, we've got Sean Manaea that was just added to our Hall of Fame, another player from this league. But on average, the last few years, it's been approximately 24 players get drafted each year that have ties to the Prospect League. Maybe they weren't drafted directly out of this league, but they played in it possibly the year before or 2 years prior. But it's been part of their journey. And, so it's nice to see, obviously, when you have success and see these players go on, whether it's really successful college careers or potentially into the major leagues.
I love it. Dan Quisenberry, man. When I saw that name,
yes,
people forget about Dan Quisenberry. That's a shout out to the 80s and the Freeway series here.
Right. There you go. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of names that people will recognize, especially, regardless of what era they're looking at or remember most fondly.
Joe Girardi was on here too, man. When I was going through this, I took some time, went through, cause as I said, I thought it was very interesting, and I was very excited that you accepted to come on the show. Cause one of the things that we work towards, as you see in the name Youth Baseball Midwest, one of our goals is to be, comprehensive in baseball talk. What's going on in the Midwest, and the Prospect League is right in the middle of it, and we see a lot of high school players and a lot of kids, and every year as we travel around and do our live stream for high school baseball. So I've really enjoyed this conversation. And David, you're welcome to come back anytime. Love to have you talk baseball and things of that nature.
Happy to do it anytime.
Absolutely. So tell the folks where prospectleague.com, correct?
Yeah, that's the website. That's the kind of the spoke of the wheel, if you will. It'll take you everywhere you need to go. But prospectleague.com is our website. You can check out all the teams coming off of that. Just click on the logos at the top. It'll take you to their information, land you on their web pages. There's, if you like some of the logos, you can go to the Prospect League store and, either get Prospect League gear or team gear. Tickets when the season comes aboard. We've got links to all the teams' ticketing locations, so you can learn more about that. But, really checking out the history of it, checking out how to play in it. If you're, a high school player heading toward a college career or looking to get to a college career, take a look at the Prospect League, because when you get to college, it's going to be a key part of your development is the summer leagues. It's not just the spring season, obviously the fall season as well, but that bridge in the summer is really an opportunity to get more reps, increase your competition, and really get a great experience get a taste of really what minor league baseball feels like while still being in college.
And I would suggest, if you're a high school player, you guys, I'm sure, have your social media accounts. You're on all of them, correct?
Yeah, we're on all of them at Prospect League. Absolutely.
So make sure, whether it's IG, X, probably Facebook, you do TikTok too.
We're working on that one. That's probably something we'll dive into more this coming year. That's kind of the emerging one. But yes, heavy presence on X and Facebook. Instagram is something we've grown considerably over the past couple of years. So, but yeah, anywhere you want to, you get your social media fix, we're on there.
Yeah,
we're all linked on that website.
My social media manager is telling me I got to do that too. So, it's the way it goes.
Sign of the times.
Yes, sir. Hey, folks. David Brauer, Commissioner of the Prospect League. Sir, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Folks, if you like what we're doing, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button down there. Please support the channel. We appreciate it. Like it, share it out with your friends. As always, there's a lot going on here. Make sure you stay tuned. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters, you know the old adage, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.